Hey fellow DMs, welcome to part 3 of the Hoard of the Dragon Queen. Glad to have you with me. Now today we're going to talk about the going into the cave, that cavern. It's more like a traditional dungeon crawl than the other adventures have been, so it's pretty easy to do. Now my adventure differed a little bit because the players were actually going back to the cave to get the blue dragon eggs who they had made a deal with in episode 1. So this gave them a real reason to go back to the cave. In the module, it's kind of just go out and clear out the cult. But I really like this that they had a legitimate reason to go in there, like a real reason, a real mission they were trying to do. So that was kind of fun. Now, unknown to the characters, the thrall of the blue dragon, who I talked about in episode 1, the monk, got a telepathic message from the dragon and said, if the people you are with harm any of my eggs, I want you to kill them. So in my games, I always have this stuff in the open. I don't take a character aside and whisper to them, and then nobody else is sitting there to know what's going on. I like everybody to know what's going on, just like a movie or a show. It's much funner if everybody knows what's going on. They just can't act on the information, right? So they get ready, they gear up. They head to the cave. Now, when they get there, there's a little bit of the camp left, and the camp doesn't seem to really be paying attention to them. They're just really, they seem to be hunters and procuring meat, right? So there's hunting in the surrounding area, getting a lot of meat. And the characters, come up to these meat vendors, kind of make a deal, get a cart with some meat on it and take it to the cave to trade it with the dragon cult so they can just pretend like they're meat traders, right? So that works pretty good. It gets them in the cave. The cultists have some people come up to haul the meat off, and the rogue ends up following them, sneaking off and following them through the cave down to this meat room where they store it. It's in this cold temperature. So they're storing meat because it's kind of like a dragon hatchery thing here. I'll explain in a minute. So they end up killing the players end up killing the couple cultist guards. And then they go down the stairs, and there's a kind of a mushroom garden there in that first cavern. When the rogue followed the people that got the meat, she saw them walk on a certain side of the stairs, so she figured they might be trapped. And she figured, well, if it was trapped, you'd kind of slide down and go into this part. So they threw the bodies of the cultists into this part, and of course that's where the violet fungus are in the module, and so they come out and they're starting to eat the bodies. So they totally avoided the violet fungus, which was pretty cool for them. And as they penetrate the cave, they find the meat room. There's really nothing interesting in it, just stores meat. But there's this other large cavern. Cavern is kind of like a hole, you can just see to infinity in the ground. I don't know how deep it is. And in the module, they talk about this troglodyte incursion. And this is where I was going to have the troglodytes come from. Like they crawl out of this, not out of the hole itself, but there's some ledges and there's some caverns that go back that the cultists have never explored because the cave's kind of full of bats, right? So they just... the characters just kind of look in there and say, oh, no, not going in there, and they just kind of leave. Well, this is where the troglodytes come from. And I wanted to have that in the adventure because I thought it would add something interesting and unexpected to the adventure, right? So they kind of had a couple ways to go. They could go, there was a secret way that led to some chambers like Mondath and Cyanwrath are in this cave, right? And would lead to their chambers, or would kind of go on, and there's this Drake training area, which was in the cavern. So they ended up going that way. They have a pitched battle with the Drake trainers and the Drakes and the Dragon Dogs, which I explained in episode 2 about those. And it was a fun battle because one thing that's interesting about this cave is it has a lot of different kind of levels. It's not just a flat cave, and I like that about it. And so I used my styrofoam and stuff to stack on each other, so I could really get that kind of look of different elevations inside the cave, and that was really fun. So the characters have this pitched battle. A couple of the trainers run off, and they chase them, and they're running through this room that was where the dragon dogs stay. They kind of replaced the kobolds in my game, and so this this place was filthy. There's like, dung from the dragon dogs, and there's rotted meat and stuff. And so there's kind of a methane buildup, I figured, in the chamber. And one of the magic users like throws some kind of fire magic or something, and just the chamber just goes boom, and there's this huge explosion. This fireball comes rushing out, of the room. The two cultists are like charred beyond belief, and the players are like, oh crap, this big fireball comes shooting back at them. But they survive that, and they press on. So that was a bit of a fun surprise, though. So, they go on and they find the main chamber of the cavern, which is this kind of ritualistic area where the cult are taking the worm, which I explained in episode 2, and kind of trying to make more, creatures, either drakes or dragon dogs or, full half dragons. Well, in this room, I also had some half dragons that didn't have wings. They were sort of partly transformed, but the magic didn't go right. Like they're just feral, like crazed creatures, and they're like chained to the wall, so they can only go a certain distance into the room. I had a few magic using cultists, which was fun. Cyanwrath, comes over and attacks the party. The party gets to pummel on him some more. After he defeated the one character, and I had. Mondath was like, he was by this altar that had this magic item that was shooting, electricity out and shooting, magical energy out. And the players figured this was something important. And so they started, like the magic user player started blasting it, with spells. And Mondath is kind of freaking out and like trying to contain the magical energy. And the thing finally kind of explodes and throws Mondath back, damages him pretty good. By this point they beat up Cyanwrath pretty good. So both of the dragons just kind of take off and fly out, because I had this kind of chute that went up, right? Well, it's in the module, but there's a chute that goes up to his chambers, and they just fly right out of there. So the other cultists are dead. They kill the other crazed half dragons. And then they move on looking for the egg, because they're really looking for the eggs. That's their main goal. So they find the egg chamber. Before that, they think there's somebody might be following them, and it turns out it's not any of the cultists or the dragons. It is the troglodytes that have come up from this pit, that have come up from this hole, and so they're crawling around, and they're actually trying to just get this cult out of here, and they want to destroy these dragon eggs. So that's kind of their mission. So it becomes like another thing at this point, right? It's no longer the cult; it's these troglodytes. So they find the egg chamber and the eggs, and I have all these stalagmites and stalactites in the chamber. Well, one of them is a roper. It's a hidden roper. I actually put a model down that was just a stalagmite, and they didn't know, that it was a roper. And then when they come in the room, some troglodytes come from another way. And one of them jumps down in the pit. There's a kind of a lower area. Jumps down the pit and is going to smash the dragon eggs. And the roper's like, and like grabs the troglodytes, like ripping them to shreds and tearing them up, And the party's like, oh crap. And so, the thing's saying, meat. So they're like, well, I'm glad we didn't go down there. So they're fighting the rest of the troglodytes, and they figure that, we can throw these troglodytes in there and it'll sate it, so they do, and the roper's like grabbing the troglodytes and eating them, and not even trying to attack them, because it's got its meat. It's got the meat it wants. So they don't want to go in the pit with it. So one of the characters had a levitation spell, and the eggs were actually in a nest. So that worked out good for them, because she just levitated the nest and pulled it over, slowly. And they got the eggs. So that was pretty cool. Now, one complaint about this module has been the roper, that it's way too strong and blah, blah, blah. Well, to me, I feel it's like the dragon, right? If a player wants to jump in and fight everything, they deserve what's coming to them. If they don't want to use their brain a little bit, to get past, obstacles and this kind of thing, especially when you show them that it's freaking dangerous. Like this troglodyte jumped in there and it ripped it to shreds. It ripped it in half and started gnawing on it. It's like, that tells you right there, you don't want to go in there and mess with it, right? That's, give your players cues like that so they can key off of that and be like, oh, maybe we should think of another plan instead of like trying to attack this, So I don't really have a lot of sympathy for players that just do that, that just attack everything and don't even think about anything. So, you can go the way, well, oh, this creature's too strong. The player shouldn't have to fight it, or they have to use their brain. They have to use their brain and get around this obstacle, which is what I prefer. So, and of course they did. They always do. My players are pretty good about that. And if they can't think of a way, I give them a clue or a break. I'm saying? You can always help them out a little bit, if they're having a problem with something like that. So anyways, they get the eggs and, they go back through the dungeon. Now, there's some areas they didn't explore, but, the main action of the dungeon was done. They had already defeated the main enemies and cleared it out. And so there's no point in exploring the rest of the dungeon. La, 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 la. It's not that exciting when the enemies are gone, right? So just quickly, they find the area, if they're looking around, you could give them some checks or whatever, and they find some stuff, whatever that was in that area. But don't dwell on those areas. Don't make them go through every closet and every little nook and cranny of the dungeon. Just kind of summarize what's left. And that's what I did. I just summarized what's left, gave them any pertinent information, and we were done. Don't make them crawl through every room unless there's some reason to do that. And usually when the main action is done like this, there's no reason to do that, okay? So they get the eggs and they go out and they realize that one of the eggs is damaged, okay? So this is kind of a dilemma for the one character, because if they damage any of these eggs, she's supposed to kill them, right? So the priest of the party says, well, I have the mend spell. I'll mend this egg and the dragon will never notice, right? So the monk decides not to tell the dragon, to go along with the party, to side with the party. So that was interesting. So now the thrall has lied to its master. So that's nice, nice juicy stuff for some other point when I can, stick it to him. But anyways, so they return the eggs. The dragon is so grateful. And, another thing in 5e, you don't want to give too many magic items. Like in some other editions, you can just throw magic items at them. But in 5e, you don't want to give too many magic items. And I found this was a perfect opportunity to give them a reward in magic items. Because in this adventure, money's not that important. I'm just kind of using an abstract system with money because there's so much money in this module that it's dumb to kind of track that. So just, if they want to take some of the treasure, let them. But really, they don't have time to spend it anyway. So what's really important to them are magic items, right? And I use this as a perfect point to dole out magic items that were perfectly tailored to the characters instead of just finding some random thing. They're like, oh, okay, this is interesting. Because they did something for the dragon. The dragon has a hoard, and the dragon picked what it thought they would like, of course, right? So this was really a nice way to give them treasure. And, it got its eggs back, and it gave them the treasure. So that's how we ended the adventure. A lot of fun, very fun dungeon crawl. And I'll be back for part 4 next time. So I'll see you then. Take care, happy gaming, and go forth and craft.